Let's talk about a nightmare scenario, one that feels ripped straight from the pages of a dystopian thriller. Imagine a big, ominous red button in a military command center. It's labeled chillingly clear, Target, Nuclear Power Plant. This isn't some far-off science fiction fantasy. It's a real possibility that keeps security experts up at night. And here's the twist. It's not a missile silo in a remote desert. It's your local nuclear plant, the one you drive past on your way to work, the one that powers your city's lights and heats your water. The idea of weaponizing a power source, something meant to fuel our lives, is no longer just a bad movie plot. It's a scenario that's being discussed in real-world military and political circles. These plants, designed to simply boil water and generate electricity, actually contain a core of unimaginable power. Energy that, if released uncontrollably, could devastate entire regions. If that power is unleashed, it doesn't just destroy buildings. It poisons the earth, the water, and the air for generations. The land becomes uninhabitable, a ghostly reminder of what once was. Bombing a nuclear plant isn't like hitting a bridge or a factory. The consequences are exponentially worse, with fallout that can spread across borders and continents. It's like detonating a hornet's nest in your own backyard. And your neighbors' and your neighbors' neighbors. The ripple effects would be felt far beyond the blast zone. This is a real, modern threat. It's not just theoretical, it's something governments and militaries are actively preparing for, and something the public needs to understand. Some military playbooks now include targeting nuclear facilities as a way to cripple an enemy's infrastructure. But the risks are so high, it's almost unthinkable. For decades, we've lived in fear of nuclear bombs falling from the sky. But what about the reactors we've built in our own backyards? What happens if those become the targets? The consequences would be catastrophic. No winners, just varying degrees of disaster. The scars would last for centuries, both on the land and in our collective memory. So let's pull back the curtain. Why would anyone consider such a reckless act? What would actually happen if that red button was pressed? And who would be left to pick up the pieces? And why do the reassurances from officials often sound so hollow, so unconvincing? Is it because the truth is too terrifying to fully admit? The line between strategic advantage and global suicide is razor thin, and some are dangerously close to crossing it. This isn't a drill. The stakes couldn't be higher. This is the new face of fear, a threat that's both invisible and ever-present, lurking in the background of our modern world. And we need to confront it, together, because ignoring it won't make it go away. Only awareness, vigilance, and action can keep us safe from the unthinkable. Why would anyone target a nuclear plant? At first glance, it seems unthinkable. These facilities are meant to power cities, not become battlegrounds. But in modern conflict, the unthinkable is often exactly what happens. It's psychological warfare. Threaten a reactor, and you hold a nation hostage. The mere suggestion of an attack can send shockwaves through a population, forcing mass evacuations and sowing chaos far beyond the blast zone. It's not just about infrastructure. It's about terrorizing millions with the threat of invisible poison. Radiation is a silent, unseen enemy, one that lingers in the air, the soil, and the water, haunting people long after the initial attack. We've seen this in Ukraine. The Zaporizhzhia plant became a front line, shelled and occupied, its power lines cut. Suddenly, a place designed for peaceful energy became a symbol of danger and uncertainty, watched by the world. The message is chillingly clear. Attack us here and risk a continental catastrophe. Fallout doesn't respect borders. A single strike could threaten millions across neighboring countries, turning local conflict into a global crisis. Beyond fear, it's about energy control. Knock out a nuclear plant and you cripple a nation's power grid, factories, hospitals, everything. The lights go out, and with them, the heartbeat of modern society. It's a shortcut to paralyzing an enemy, bypassing months of fighting by striking at the core of a nation's infrastructure. The effects ripple outwards, disrupting daily life and eroding morale. Then there's radiological warfare, intentionally causing a radioactive release to deny territory. It's not just about immediate destruction, but about making land uninhabitable for generations. Breach a reactor or spent fuel site, and you contaminate land for decades. Fields become wastelands, towns are abandoned, and entire regions are marked by invisible danger. It's a scorched earth tactic for the nuclear age, one that leaves scars not just on the land but on the collective memory of a nation. The fact that this is even considered shows how far the rules of war have eroded. Once, nuclear sites were off limits, protected by international treaties and mutual fear. Now those lines are blurring. Nuclear plants are now pawns in a terrifying new game, their safety no longer guaranteed. Each standoff, each threat, raises the stakes for everyone, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The world watches, hoping that the next move won't trigger a disaster that changes everything. What happens if a bomb hits a nuclear plant? The question alone is chilling, but the reality is even more terrifying. Nuclear plants are built to withstand many disasters, but a direct attack is a nightmare scenario. Forget mushroom clouds. The first danger is chaos and destruction. The blast wave shatters buildings, throws debris everywhere, and instantly disrupts the delicate balance that keeps the plant safe. A missile can sever the power grid in seconds, cutting off the plant's main source of electricity. This isn't just a blackout, it's the start of a chain reaction. No electricity means no cooling for the reactor core, a meltdown in the making. The cooling systems are the plant's lifeline, and without them, the temperature inside the core rises rapidly. Backup generators are the last defense, but if they're hit, the crisis escalates fast. These generators are designed for emergencies, but they're not invincible. Operators now in a war zone must prevent disaster with limited resources, if they're even alive. They face impossible choices, working under extreme stress with alarms blaring and systems failing around them. Even if the core isn't breached, system failures can trigger a meltdown. Pumps stop, valves jam, and the automated safety systems may be damaged or offline. The core stays hot for weeks. Without cooling, fuel rods melt, creating radioactive sludge that can breach containment. This sludge is highly toxic, and if it escapes, it contaminates everything in its path: air, water, and soil. This isn't just about buildings, it's about people. The staff are the first line of defense, but they're also at the greatest risk. Plant staff are civilians, not soldiers. They're engineers, technicians, and support workers, ordinary people thrust into an extraordinary crisis. If they're gone, who manages the crisis? Without trained personnel, even the best safety systems are useless. An attack on a nuclear plant is an attack on the human system that keeps it safe. It's not just infrastructure at risk, it's the entire community, and potentially the world beyond. Without them, the plant becomes a ticking time bomb, with every minute increasing the danger, and the countdown accelerates in war. In the chaos of conflict, help may not arrive in time, and the consequences can spiral out of control. The margin for error vanishes. In moments like these, every second counts, and the world holds its breath. Now comes the invisible threat: radiation. A meltdown or breached spent fuel pool releases a plume of radioactive particles, carried by wind for hundreds of miles. You can't see, smell, or taste it, but it poisons soil, water, and food. Farmland becomes wasteland, water undrinkable, the food chain turns toxic. Mass evacuations follow, creating a refugee crisis in the middle of war. Exclusion zones become ghost towns for decades. The economic and social fabric of entire regions unravels overnight. Spent fuel pools are especially vulnerable, often less protected than reactors, but packed with radioactive material. If a pool is hit and water drains, the fuel can overheat and catch fire, releasing even more radiation. Experts have warned about this for years. In war, these vulnerabilities become targets. The fallout is unthinkable. This isn't science fiction. Chernobyl and Fukushima showed us the reality of large-scale radiological disasters. Chernobyl's explosion spread radioactive clouds across Europe, forcing mass evacuations and leaving ghost towns. The health and environmental tolls are still felt generations later. Fukushima, triggered by a tsunami, led to meltdowns and massive contamination. Over 150,000 people displaced, cleanup ongoing for decades. These were accidents, not acts of war. Now imagine the same devastation, but deliberate missiles instead of natural disasters. The outcome could be even worse. These disasters are not just history, they're warnings. They show exactly what's at stake, and what we must avoid at all costs. The damage doesn't end with the explosion or the cloud. The fallout lasts for generations. Health risks, cancer, heart disease, psychological trauma linger for decades. Economically, contaminated regions become dead zones. Agriculture, tourism, property values, all wiped out. Cleanup costs soar into the hundreds of billions. The global economy feels the shockwaves. Supply chains disrupted, trade restricted, trust in nuclear energy shattered. Geopolitically, attacking a nuclear plant breaks a new taboo. It could trigger massive retaliation and escalate conflicts. International safety frameworks would be undermined. Every reactor becomes a potential dirty bomb. Public trust in nuclear power would collapse, setting back climate goals for decades. The consequences ripple through health, economy, security, and the planet's future. It's a legacy of ruin that lasts centuries. One attack could change the world forever. The cost is incalculable. Some say modern nuclear plants are safe, fortresses of concrete and steel built to withstand disasters. International law, like the Geneva Conventions, says these sites shouldn't be attacked. In theory, redundant safety systems and professional operators make catastrophe unlikely, but that's in a perfect world, where wars follow rules and systems never fail. Reality is messier, wars break rules, and chaos overwhelms even the best designs. Safety reassurances rely on optimistic assumptions. When the stakes are this high, optimism is dangerous. The truth, no plant is truly safe in a war zone. The risks are real, and the consequences are irreversible. We can't afford to be complacent. Let's be clear. Bomb-proof is a fantasy. Containment domes are strong but not invincible, especially against modern bunker-busting weapons. Military technology outpaces civilian defenses. Repeated strikes can breach even the toughest structures. International law is only as strong as those willing to follow it. In war, rules are often ignored. Redundant safety systems are designed for accidents, not coordinated attacks. War brings cascading failures, power loss, fires, staff casualties, all at once. Plants are complex systems with many weak points, spent fuel pools, power lines, control rooms. An attacker doesn't need to breach the dome, just hit the weakest link. The illusion of safety is dangerous. In war, a nuclear plant is a house of cards, and war is a hurricane. We can't rely on hope. Nuclear facilities are now targets in war, a terrifying new reality. The risk of catastrophic radiation release is unacceptably high. Chernobyl and Fukushima proved the consequences are global and generational. We need a new unbreakable taboo. Attacks on nuclear plants must be condemned as crimes against humanity. Demilitarized zones, strict monitoring, and severe consequences for violations are essential. This isn't just policy, it's about survival. Are we willing to risk the planet for a temporary advantage? Bombing a nuclear plant is suicidal madness. We're at the threshold of disaster. For our future, we must step back and lock the door forever.